So we move now on to our final session, or final sessions of this afternoon. It's another panel discussion, and this one we're actually going to concentrate on interoperability as a catalyst for cross-border impact. So if we can have the Slido QR code, just in case you still need it on your phone, in case your phone hasn't got the details anymore. Feel free to send questions and thoughts and comments as we go through. But we're going to delve into the possibilities of using those shared standards and frameworks to make it easier for member states to deliver digital public services across borders. And what we mean by that is basically to try and maintain sustainability and efficiency standards and actually improve that trust and the impact for citizens as well. So wrapping up all the good things, all the opportunities now this afternoon. So please welcome your moderator and her panel to take us through this one. The Director of Digital Enables and Innovations at DG Digit. Please welcome Natalia Aristimuño Perez. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, you can come. So good afternoon, everybody. I see we are a bit less than this morning, but we are the good ones staying here. Yeah, please. Okay. So as Sasha was saying, now we are I mean, the title of the conference was about impact. So we will be looking at about real impact, how interoperability really helps to enable seamless cross-border cooperation. I mean, this has been mentioned several times. So let's look at it to see how we can really manage all what is produced by all of you in all public administrations and make it sustainable, including standards, frameworks, whatever that is delivered and is helping digital public services across borders, which, as it was mentioned also before, makes us to have a much more competitive market, but also more efficient administrations. And only, as Sasha also was mentioning, with the trust and having real impact on citizens and businesses. So I have here with me 4 esteemed speakers. Jarkko, you are the Director General and Government CIO for Public Sector ICT at the Finnish Ministry of Finance. You are also leading the department responsible for steering public sector ICT, common services, and you are also chairing the Finnish Digital Office, which is overseeing the country's digitalization efforts, and you represent Finland in the Interoperable Europe board. So for sure you know a lot about interoperability, and I'm sure you will bring very, very insightful messages. I'll move to Francesca. You are Director for the Digital Transformation and Data at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. So you are providing scientific expertise on digital technologies, being it artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, but also you are overviewing the GRC's digital governance, so how to put all pieces together and making sure interoperability is there. And yeah, so you have also served as Deputy Director for the Fair and Sustainable Economy and led the Economic and Financial Resilience Unit, which is an element that has also been discussed, and it's important to look at what is the impact and how we can measure the impact of what we are doing. Adam, well, I don't know if I need to reintroduce you. You were there already this morning, but so Deputy Director General at the Danish Agency for Digital Government, leading the national initiatives in digital identity, communication, and public service platforms. So, yeah, this gives you a very extensive experience and expertise in digital policy and technology. And I'm looking forward to see how you are doing and implementing this in Denmark. And finally, we have Felipe. So you are the digital government lead at the OECD Public Governance Directorate. So you are coordinating the OECD Digital Government Index and lead the work on digital public infrastructure and digital identity. So you are also focusing on promoting international cooperation. This is also something that has been mentioned for cross-border interoperability, mutual recognition of digital identity systems. And so we will be very interested in hearing from you. So, as we are talking interoperability today, could I ask you to introduce yourself, but more to let us know how you end up in the world of interoperability and what does it mean for you in your work? And I would like to start, Jarkko.
Yes, thank you, and very nice to be here with you this afternoon. And as already introduced, I'm with the Ministry of Finance, so I'm from the dark side of the government, and before that I worked for 13 years in the Finnish tax administration, and Finnish tax administration started quite a while ago creating this mechanism to get information from other institutions in the country to collect the information about the taxation, and that work has been my school for interoperability. For example, defining what the term income means to several different organizations, banks, employers, insurance companies, and so on. It varies a lot, and that really brought the understanding to me that how important it is to do the big work of agreeing with the semantics on the interoperability. I'm also leading with my colleagues from Estonia and Iceland the fully digitally sovereign and open sourced product development on X-Road, which is a truly a European interoperability platform. So if you are in market for a platform and worried about the digital sovereignty, there's your answer. But anyways, that's my story.
Thank you very much. And we see how broad interoperability, in how broadly interoperability can be applied. And indeed, we have very concrete solutions already that you can apply immediately. Francesca, what about you?
Well, as you said, Natalia, first of all, thanks for the invitation and the opportunity to be here to talk about interoperability, which is such an important topic. So as you said, we are the Joint Research Center of the Commission, so we provide scientific evidence in support to the EU policies. And in particular, in my directorate, we are dealing with digital transformation, AI, and data. And therefore, our work is focusing on the digital domain, on the digital policies, on addressing the global digital challenges. And in our work, we have the expertise that you mentioned before on the technologies in areas such as cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, algorithmic transparency, data. And therefore, it's clear that in this work, the concept of interoperability plays a key role. And also, as you said, we are trying to facilitating the transition, the digital transition also of the JRC as such. We want to make use of AI tools, the new generative AI tools in our work. We want to deploy them in the Commission, and therefore interoperability is at the core of it. I was just out of curiosity looking in EURLEX, which is the database online of the legal documents of the Commission. And I did this search, and only in 2025, the word interoperability was mentioned in 42 Commission communication and 75 proposals for regulation. And this is very telling, in my view, on the importance that we attach as Commission to the concept of interoperability. And I think that lately this is even more important, okay, because of the technological context. As I was saying, the AI tools, I mean, we cannot have AI tools working well if there is no possibility to access the data. So we have to make sure that the data are shared across departments, and also for the geopolitical context, because of course we want the digital sovereignty that I think has been mentioned during these 2 days already as an important topic, and therefore there is the link between interoperability and digital sovereignty. Now, I don't want to take too long, but you know that as JRC we have been working on interoperability for 2 decades now. We started with ISA and ISA Square at the time, and then the implementation of the Inspire Directive, and we continued broadening our work in different areas with the Digital Europe program and the European data spaces, and of course, last but not least, the work that we have done together with you, Natalia, on the Interoperable Europe Act, where, as you know, we have been supporting throughout the entire policy-making process, so from the drafting to the negotiation and the assessment. So it's really a key part of our work, and in particular, I would say that an important aspect for us is to focus on the impact, on the assessment of the impact of achieving interoperability, and also of all the different actions for achieving interoperability.
Thank you. So indeed, we see the scientific approach and looking at numbers, which is indeed very much telling. And even if interoperability is not something like very new, already more 20 years, so 2 decades around it, it is still actual. We still need it. Felipe, what about you?
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, thanks to you and to our friends from the Commission and Digit for inviting the OECD to this very important event. We follow it every year with a lot of attention, and I'm very happy to be here today. Maybe to complement to the other experiences, let me start with the fact that I'm not European. I'm from Chile. But I work at the OECD in Paris, and I experience as a user the interoperability in many different ways and flavors after living in Chile and in a few European countries, including Spain, France, and Germany. And yeah, it's a very interesting experience as user, citizen, in accessing services that are more complex and that require cooperation, integration. But from a professional perspective, I also come from the dark side of the force, like Jarkko. I used to work in the Chilean Ministry of Finance in a team supporting the digital transformation of many other public institutions. And one of our core goals was to make sure that they could work together, that they were able to integrate and to interoperate. And to me, I think complementing with what has been discussed today, part of that experience was also very, I would say, rich in the sense that from a technical perspective, I think there are so many brilliant minds and people working in advancing semantic interoperability. We've seen it today, so many examples and initiatives. But what it strikes me a lot is that, at least there, the issue was not necessarily from a technological perspective. It was more from a governance perspective, an organizational perspective, how to see two connected institutions, procurement and budgeting. It's a very simple example within the Ministry of Finance domain to work together, to interoperate, and to improve then the flow of data so businesses, users can have better services. And something that was very simple to do took us years of negotiations and alignment and coordination. So I think it was a very rich approach to complement now the work that I'm able to do from the OECD, which is more to have this sort of cross-regional country approach, largely influenced by European countries because they represent most of the OECD membership, but also bringing together the experience of Latin American countries, Southeast Asia, and so on. And I would say that the issue remains the same. Surprisingly, I think there's a lot of work to do to make sure that people, institutions are able to work together, to sit together, to coordinate, to align purposes, goals, and governance structure to make this happen. Certainly technology is there and it contributes, but technology follows the goal and the vision. And I think for me, that's from my professional experience, it's what it brings more of attention to the concept of interoperability.
Thank you. And indeed, it's a good reminder that technology cannot solve all the problems. We need people to cooperate. So, yeah, and their interoperability can also help. Adam.
And thank you again also for the introduction. Happy to participate here. And I hear that I'm also started out my brush with the interoperability in the dark side in the Ministry of Finance, that I hear it's called. But also a force for good in many ways, because it brings people together. That's a coordinating mechanism, often with the use of money in public administration. And that is, of course, also one of the driving forces. We had work also more than 20 years ago on the first architecture framework, what we call the white paper for architecture, participated in SEMIC already and had our own version of SEMIC, the architecture conference. Started out 20 years ago, still exists, and had a lot of work on that. And one of the things that also focused a lot on back then, that we still focus a lot on, is open standards. And this has always been a huge part of interoperability. At the time, one of the great things I remember that it was a discussion on how to do open standards for word processing documents. Like maybe some remember OOXML and ODF. Eventually, we had a meeting with Steve Ballmer, the then CEO of Microsoft, and told him you have to do interoperability with OpenOffice. And I think actually eventually they did, but it's still a work in progress. And now we also hear from other some of our colleagues in Denmark, from Aarhus, how they're working with interoperability and open standards and open source in Office, which is great. It's an ongoing work. We do a lot of work in this area still, and it's very important. One of the things that we focus a lot on these days, that I also mentioned briefly earlier in my opening address, was the interplay between working with users and mass implementation at the same time as having the architecture and interoperability right. These are very difficult in practice, and something I think we always need to address, how to make it work in practice at the same time as doing it right.
Thank you. And well, I hope we are bringing some light to the dark side, as this has been mentioned. So now let's move to how we can really create impact, as we were discussing. And I know both Finland and Denmark, you have done impressive work on interoperability at national level. So I will ask to both of you the same question. Could you share your most impactful initiatives for digital public services, and to what extent interoperability helped? So what do you consider that needs to be done to increase the impact of interoperability? And I would add particularly at cross-border, but it can also be cross-sector aspects. So Adam, as you we're talking, you can continue, perhaps.
It's difficult to mention one because there's so many different initiatives. One of the things we worked a lot on is how to get the data right across government. And this has been a huge effort across ministries, and also how to get the metadata right, and how to improve data sharing, but also creating joint standards across government authorities. And also building a lot upon the European framework that we have adapted during this period. So the work, for instance, on basic data is one of the great things that we've done. I just mentioned a great example from this. Address data is something that is very difficult to work with. It used to be in slightly different variations across all government systems. They couldn't work together really because it was slightly different. So one of the great success stories was we actually got it down to one standard and had it implemented everywhere. So and that was a huge success. We celebrated it a lot at the time. The difficulty, of course, is you have to do that for all the data. It's a long journey, but helped along a lot. And we also work a lot with the metadata and bringing it together, both for national use, but also for European use in the future.
Thank you, and indeed, this is why we are in SEMIC, where we see the value of semantic interoperability and the importance of data. And good to know that we still have work to do, because there is still a lot to do to continue the journey that has started. So what about Finland? What can you share?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with Adam that it's very hard to pinpoint one particular thing. It's a combination of many different things. Some of it is legislation, some of it are recommendation standards that needs to be taken in use. Then there's the whole kind of like technical level and security stuff that needs to be handled. Tools to help the coming up with the semantics of the interoperability. But to me, if we think about impact, we can't really stay on the general architecture and to abstract level. I believe that we do all make a little bit of a mistake keeping this interoperability on a too abstract level that makes it a very hard topic for non-experts to approach. And I do feel that creating cross-border interoperability, data exchange, and even kind of like domestic interoperability, it's very important to either start with or finally came to a use case. What do we actually want to achieve? What kind of service do we want to provide, or what sort of benefits do we want to create for all the players in the picture? So usually when we are talking about interoperability, we are talking about some sort of ecosystem. The obvious is usually the human being, the customer, that is in the middle. But then there are so many other players from private sector, public sector, abroad, and so on. And we do need to in order to really create impact, to create a use case that will actually benefit all. And that's usually the big key that will kind of like open the floodgates for impact achieved through interoperability.
Thank you. So indeed, we should not be doing interoperability for the sake of doing interoperability. we have to have the purpose, and indeed the citizens, the businesses are the ones that can benefit from interoperability. So I think that's very right statement. And here even I know we tend to have very technical discussions and sometimes forget what was the purpose of why we were doing this interoperability, this architecture, even these standards on data, and forgetting the end point, which is how this will help our users. But I know you are working precisely having this in mind, but it's very important to remind it very often that we don't do interoperability just to do it. Thank you very much. And indeed, we know also, and this has slightly been mentioned, that interoperability and digital transformation are very, very tightly linked. And this is why also it is very difficult to measure one or the other independently. We have seen in the LETA report that indicates that interoperability is one of the elements to increase EU GDP by 0.4 percentage annually, and saving billions for citizens and particularly to businesses. So we all know that by applying interoperability and having the very concrete use cases where this can help the businesses, the time businesses would spend is much, much lower, so bringing money on the table. So how would you propose, Francesca, to assess interoperability actions to better measure the impact, and so that we can realize that what we are doing is going in the right direction?
Thanks, Natalia, for this question, which is very interesting and important, but also very challenging, because it's not that trivial to assess the impact. You mentioned the LETA report. In the LETA report, there are figures about the benefit that interoperability brings, the positive impact, and this comes from work that, in fact, we have done in the JRC, where we have indeed come up with an estimate of the amount of money that a business can save yearly. And we are talking about more than 500 billion per year, thanks to the fact that due to interoperability, also the public services are more efficient. So for sure, there is a very positive impact. And also we have gone further, complementing some of the work done for the LETA report, looking at some specific applications. For example, we have estimated more than 4.5 billion per year if we look at the payment of taxes, or 600 million if we focus on the registration of new firms. So we can go in depth and also come up with an estimate of the positive impact. Of course, if we think of the actions and we want to measure the impact of those, I think it's important to, maybe with a scientific approach, follow a two-step approach. So first we have to try to assess the increased ability to exchange information across sectors and across borders. So it's clear that thanks to this action, there will be easier sharing of information, much better than if the action was not implemented. But then, connecting on what you are saying, it's important to assess the final outcome, which is how this improvement in the sharing of information is having an effect. So are these services that the citizens are receiving faster? Are they cheaper? Is the user more satisfied? This is what we really need to measure. Now, of course, this is the theoretical approach. We need the data. But there are areas in which the data are available, because we have, for example, the data that come from the e-government benchmark. There are the data that come from the monitoring of the single digital gateway regulation. There we are looking at public services, we are looking at administrative processes, and we can see from this data if indeed there are improvements, if we achieve this positive impact that we want to achieve. And we could, for example, start from some selected life events areas that are maybe closer to the citizens, like health or mobility, and we can see with the data there that we have. And personally, I would suggest to focus on those areas that are key for Europe. So for those areas where it's important, the cross-border mobility of services, like when you talk about changing employment or education, moving from one country to another. So all the things that facilitate moving across borders in Europe. It's challenging, and actually maybe ideas that come from this audience could also be relevant for measuring the impact, and get in contact with the HRC if you have any, because it's an area that where we need to work.
Thank you. So a call for you to collaborate and give ideas on how we can better measure impact. But indeed, it's also very important to go beyond just putting forward a new service and measuring that it is, I would say, to start with, being used, because also sometimes we do initiate new services that we think are great, but then nobody uses them. Then even if we consider the impact to be very positive, well, it is not there. So indeed, this is very important, and yeah. So any ideas, you can contribute to Francesca and DRC work. Now, Felipe, so the OECD, your organization, has done a lot of work on looking at how which are the enabling conditions on the impact or the impact of interoperability. But looking at it from a different perspective of what Francesca was mentioning, so looking at the user empowerment to innovation, but also at human-centered public services. So can you perhaps tell us a bit about these works you have been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting conversation, because I think from the OECD perspective, thinking of the impact of interoperability, I think a good lens to approach this conversation is the extent to which good, faster public services boost trust in public institutions. So the OECD has been implementing already for 3 years the survey of trust in public institutions, and one of the key factors that drives overall satisfaction with governments is the satisfaction with public services. And in particular, like for users that are satisfied with the speed and the ease of accessing a service, they are significantly more satisfied with the public service overall experience. So in that sense, I'm trying to understand a bit better what is driving that sort of speed and ease in accessing a service. We are working right now on a joint project with the European Commission, with the SG reform, establishing a common methodology for measuring user satisfaction on key life events that is connected to what Francesca was saying. And Finland is one of the countries that is taking part in this initiative. And the results will be soon shared through a dedicated report. But I can already anticipate that, not surprisingly, the life events that leverage the once-only principle, for example, users are significantly way more satisfied than those that will need to provide or resubmit their data. So this is not new, but there will be fresh indicators mentioning this. And complex services, those that require, for example, more integration and cooperation among different service providers, are those that are where users are less satisfied. So not surprisingly, interoperability plays a key role in the way that users can trust public institutions and also be satisfied with public services. And for that, I would say that from the work that we do, we are really trying to measure the extent to which those foundations are strong enough, digital foundations, to be able to deliver or implement interoperability initiatives. And what we see in a nutshell through our digital government index is that there is a big gap in terms of strategy and implementation. So countries and plausibly have established really, really good strategies, comprehensive, dedicated, with governance mechanisms. When it comes to, for example, leverage interoperability initiatives, for example, data sharing, we see that only among the OECD, half of countries' public sector institutions are using the data interoperability system, which obviously constrains the capacity to share data. So I think complementing these and based on the recent work that we've been doing, I would like to underline like three ideas in terms of how to make sure that these capabilities, digital capabilities, are able to deliver as expected. And one in particular, thinking of trust and in public institutions and satisfaction with public services. One is really to embedding user centricity at the core. Thinking ahead of possible use case scenarios across borders. And there's no like one size fits all, but we know well that, for example, for Nordic countries, the cooperation between the public and the private sector is a really important aspect. And I saw, Adam, the news about the trust in your digital identity system, and that's builds on a very long-standing collaboration with the private sector to govern and to fund the digital identity system or other key digital public infrastructure. Which brings me to another point in terms of sustainability and looking at the right funding models. So interoperability being shared pieces of technology across many institutions require a fairly different way to be funded as critical infrastructure. So thinking about multi-year funding, but also public-private partnerships to make sure, depending on the context, how to do it. And finally, again, thinking ahead about cross-border interoperability and possible use cases. So I think Jarkko and Adam mentioned it very well. These are complex initiatives to implement. So starting small and scaling up is really important. This is one of the beauties of focusing on use cases. We had a long conversation with also our delegates a few weeks ago on this. So I would suggest that I would think that can be a good, important element to consider when approaching interoperability as well.
Thank you. So also I could summarize that what our citizens or businesses, they are looking at to have the simplicity in using our services, even if the complexity is behind, and that is where interoperability can help to make sure that this complexity is not exposed to the end users or to the other administrations, and we can hide complexity with interoperability. So, and thank you, Felipe. Felipe, we have some ideas for the future on how to implement, and this is also something on the to-do for everybody. It's very good to have great ideas. It's a bit more difficult to implement them. So I think here we are also showing, and this is why we wanted to have some examples on it is possible to not only have the ideas, but make them happen. And this is what we are also trying to share today, so that you can get inspiration from others on how to move from ideas to implementation. Thank you very much. Perhaps if we could have the questions that you have posted in Slido, we could perhaps take a couple of them. If not, while we have or not the questions, as we are ending, we are finalizing the conferences. Perhaps, and I already took some of the to-dos because you already mentioned some, and you could perhaps bring your main takeaways and also while reading you can also answer to some of the questions. But Could you share with us your main takeaways, but also have a to-do list with some actions or projects? So what would you have in that list that you would like to share with all of you? I propose we start with Francesca.
Yes, thanks, Natalia. Well, if I think of the to-do list, and because, okay, I come from this scientific world, and I think it's important to measure the impact, as it was also discussed during our session today. I think it would be extremely important to be able to develop a model that really can estimate the financial saving that can be generated from each single euro that is invested in interoperability. I think if we can come up with something like that, and we can really show for each of the action initiatives, policy initiative, what is the actual benefit in economic terms, I think it has two important elements. First, it helps us prioritizing where to invest, because we can see where we can achieve the higher benefit. But also, I think it's important because it's incentivizing stakeholders to go for interoperability, because it's a job for everyone. And so having a model that can really come up with an estimate of this financial saving for the various actions, I think it would be something for us to do in the future. I'm thinking of the JRC.
Thank you very much, Francesca. Well, from what I see in Slido, is more than a question. It's just like a statement that we cannot have governments not being interoperable. I would say that we all agree on that, and that's on the interest of businesses and citizens. But Adam, which are your takeaways, and what do you have in your to-do?
Well, first of all, on the question, yeah, we take it for granted, and citizens and businesses take it for granted that solutions are interoperable, they should not put in their data again, and so on. And you would expect public authorities to work together on solutions, so you shouldn't go from one authority to the next. So in that sense, it's taken for granted, and something we have to design services on. So for some of the takeaways and to-do lists, the focus on digital sovereignty has come up a lot today, and also the open source, the possibilities of addressing some of the issues related to digital sovereignty. So that's definitely a focus point. Where can we work together? There's a strong European case in point in this area. A second thing is the AI. We need to find out how to address this in the various ways we use AI. We all use AI. For various ways, and it's in many ways a general tool, but we haven't found out the interoperable ways of using it. So for us, for instance, for the you can say chatbot use of AI, the AI that's used for the citizen and business facing parts of government. We're looking at way to make it the architecture right and make it interoperable, and I think that's going to be a huge thing in the future to get that right. And the third thing I'll point to is EID. EID, like data, is one of the key drivers of getting services to work across borders, and we need to get that right in Europe, both for citizens and businesses. And interoperability is part of it, but also getting it all the way. Because as you mentioned, Natalia, you can design services, but unless people use them and you can get all the way to actually drive benefit for citizens to use them, you won't get there. So how do we get there together and solve all the problems that are there for citizens and business to reap the full benefits of an interoperable Europe? I think that's on our joint to-do lists.
Thank you very much. And indeed, it links very well. So we need a methodology to measure properly the impact, so that then we can put together all the foundations and the ingredients to make sure that we have the interoperability out there. Jarkko.
Yes, like Adam started, I've been attending to the sessions on digital sovereignty today, and it has been very, very interesting points of views. But I would say that definitely my to-do list is to visit the city of Aarhus after 25 years since I've been there last time, and really get to know what they have done with open source solutions. That's very interesting would be to dive into that. But maybe coming back to the cross-border data exchange and interoperability, and now that we are almost a year away from deadline of having the European digital wallet deadline, I do feel that it has to be mentioned that identity is a really hugely important thing in interoperability. Everything lies on that, and while I'm very excited and enthusiastic about the European-wide digital wallets and the identity, we need to go further. We cannot just rely on identifying someone. We need to share our population data more, and this is something that we are at least working quite a lot on the Nordic countries to be able to create a good platform for actual cross-border services that are interoperable, and the identity and the some of the aspects of population data around that are very key on that.
Thank you. So I think we have quite a long list for the to-do. So we will have also something to talk about in the next year conference. If I perhaps summarize a bit, as we were saying, so interoperability is important, but we need to know which is the impact we want to create with such interoperability. And I think some of the elements that have been put forward, which is on trust, which is very linked to identity. So we have to make sure that identity, and indeed identity cross-border is key. Felipe, you were mentioning where you are traveling. This is an important element, and I know that on identity and the digital wallet is something that is I would say, a key enabler of interoperability, but also bringing the public services to a different level. And I know that because there was a question also in the slide from this morning on going beyond to Europe, and there is where OECD, but beyond, we are working on, for example, having this mutual recognition of electronic signatures, electronic identity, so that we can really go this cross-border, where we will be able to exchange the data and then build on the services that are beyond there. So, well, we still have if I check, perhaps we can still, because I didn't mention open source, which is something that also has been shared. So perhaps if you are interested in replying to one of the questions, perhaps on open source, I know we don't have all the answers about that, but any of you would like to share on the open source? And I know it's a challenging question, but Adam, please.
Yep. Open source, it's always it's a challenging question, and it's also a difficult question, because open source is so much bloody different things. There are a lot of differences between open source products, where there's a huge community, to doing open source in government. We develop solutions that sometimes are only used by us. and do it as open source. In that sense, there will always be a need to look at the quality. And to the extent that there's not a community, we'll either have to do a community, and that will do for some product, or you'll have to manage the quality in some ways. So I agree that it's always an issue that has to be addressed, and that's not a single way of solving the problem. You can't just rely on a community if there's nothing there. You would have to have it, and also, for instance, when we have put forward open source product for things we've developed ourselves, we also have to actually have our outsourcing vendors participate in part of the quality assurance in this regard. Yeah, so definitely it's a good question.
Thank you, and indeed, so we can see here, and I would say we have here a very big community that can help contributions on making the interoperability a reality. I think now it's time to close. Perhaps, well, it was not foreseen, but I will ask nevertheless. Can you just, in one sentence, one word or one sentence, I give you the choice, just to close today's panel, and I would like to start with Jarkko.
Well, that's a difficult one. Somebody once said that if you can say in one word what's the situation of interoperability, I would say good. But if I would have two words, I would say not good. So I will leave it to that.
Okay, I think we will need more discussions around this. Thank you, Adam.
One of the things that is very important is to take in the user and focus on the user, because often you get the idea when you look at interoperability of the architecture, the framework that you are building. But doing IT is both having a framework and at the same time having a focus on the user. So you can't think about it without the user, and you have to think of it both ways. So that's also one of the keys.
Thank you. Felipe.
I totally agree with both Jarkko and Adam, but in particular on the point on human centricity and bringing users on board. Maybe just to complement, I think this idea that interoperability projects might be complex, and it's important to start small. It's important to test and iterate and to learn from failures to inform more complex initiatives. And I think, again, the idea of use cases is a really good approach to narrow down the problem and to focus on something that is simple and more manageable.
Thank you.
I definitely agree with my colleagues, and for me it's impact for citizens. Whatever we do, let's always keep in mind the final desired outcome, which is having positive impact for the life of our citizens, for the business. So never forget the final goal.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that with these words, it summarized very well the discussions that we have gone through today. So I would like to ask you to applause our panel for the great discussion. So thank you very much. Okay, and I don't leave you. So now we are getting to the end of the conference, getting to the end of today, and yeah. So let me just switch so I don't forget and I don't mix up things. Perhaps let me. So now we are moving to the close of today, and someone was saying we are less than this morning. This means that we will be able to share also more afterwards when we will have the drinks outside. Today, I wanted also to indicate that when going around, someone told me, oh, but today, the setup of today and the place where we are, it looks like the cathedral of semantics. So I found that was a very good summary of the setup, but I think also of the ambience that we have found today. What do you think, Adam?
I think it's a great metaphor for the discussion today, and it really feels like a cathedral when you are in here of semantics. Do you know what I thought about Legos? We heard, maybe many of you heard the wonderful image of Legos we love to play with in Denmark. Do you know the term adult fan of Lego, AFOLs? That's very important. That's very important here. And last weekend, I was with my kids. We were starting out on our annual. We do a Lego Christmas village. And you're thinking, how do you build this little white, the white pieces so they look like snow? It's a little more complicated than that. So just to reflect on it, I thought about this Lego image of interoperability all day, because it's really a wonderful image that you need the pieces to fit together. And you really need the standards, many different kind of standards. You should look at an architecture drawing of how the dimensions are in Lego, because it's really thought out. And you need these standards to make it work. But on the other note, you can say, maybe you don't want to have very structured processes that you have to build Lego exactly like that. Maybe you need the sweet spot of having exactly the right standards in place that allow you to do creativity. And maybe there's a lot of good advice on how do you do the actual snow so it looks right in your Christmas village. So I think in that sense, it's also a good point in where do you need interoperability and where do you use interoperability to free up creativity in building.
Yeah, that's great, and that's why we are in Denmark talking about interoperability. So perhaps let's go a bit to today, and let me give you some numbers. So we had more than 1,200 registered people. So I think that this indeed, as it has been mentioned several times, this is the biggest SEMIC conference. We had more than 600 people registered on site, and around a bit more for online. So we reach out physically here, almost the 500 people being in the room. So I would like also to thank you, all of you, for being here. Today we have had 2 high-level panels where I think we were really very inspiring, 6 parallel tracks, a keynote speech, a high-level input from our executive vice president, and I'm sure you all have followed. There was also a lot of activity and a lot of sharing in the LinkedIn group. So there you can also find already some key takeaways that were built through the day. So, but Adam, what about yesterday?
Well, I mean, it was just awesome that so many people showed up yesterday. This has been a huge success for the conference. Almost a little too much for the catering, but they managed. And so it's just a success story, and it's really shows us the value of bringing people together. A lot of people found value of both participating here in person in Copenhagen, but also participating online in the many workshops. And the workshops tackle a lot of different topics, but they all had a common thread, the need to collaborate on finding workable solutions for all of Europe. And it's just so great bringing so many people together. And you know, when we were doing the hand raising before, I thought that a lot of the participants were Danish, but they're actually from all over Europe. And you can see that on the list. So it's wonderful we brought so many people together. A lot of focus on semantics, on digital-ready legislation, data spaces, sharing of best practices, and a lot of other topics, and a lot of great discussions. And you could see a lot of people got a lot of new network connections.
Indeed. So we all agree that even if we support digital, we all agree that it is also good to meet and to see each other at least once per year, I would say. Now, let me go a bit to the morning. We had the opening session where, well, we reminded again that interoperability is not something abstract. It is really what brings and makes the possibility of transforming fragmented public services to seamless and integrated ones. And this is the only way we can achieve to offer personalized, accessible, and really easy to access services for the people, so that they don't see, as I was mentioning before, the complexity. It also reminds us as public services not to ask 10 times the same information to the citizens and the businesses, and this to be applicable not only at the national level but also cross-border. Well, we also talk about digital sovereignty. This is an important topic that was touched at different levels, but what is very important is that digital sovereignty is not about isolation, but there is where interoperability makes the difference and play a role. Harmonizing data, it's a key element, and maintaining the control while enabling the cross-border and cross-sector interoperability. We had a message from our Executive Vice President, President Henna Virkkunen, where, yeah, so what she mentioned is interoperability is, we could see it as having a conversation on how Europe delivers real world value by building competitive economies and connected public administrations that serve our citizens and businesses. So it is clear that through interoperability we can strengthen competitiveness, we can also fuel innovation, and it is multi-purpose. We have heard that today, not only from Virkkunen. Moving, it covers the defense domain, like the health domain, and all what you can imagine in the middle. Then we had the first high-level panel, where the title was Interoperability for Simplification and Competitiveness in a Digital Europe. And there we were talking about also very specific and concrete projects, and we were talking from also AI assistance to the AI Act and to apply AI. But what I would take from that panel was first that it was mentioned interoperability happens every day. It's not something that is there. We have a framework somewhere, but it's really happening every day in all the domains. And we have to think interoperability since the very beginning of the design of any new legislation or a new public service. The Lego model has been indicated or used several times, but also the need of having this is not only about the public sector, and this has also been reminded several times, is the links also with the private sector and how we can work together. And to close on the high-level panel one, we got a definition, just as a reminder again, what interoperability means, which is the ability to operate together. So I wanted to keep this as this was indicated this morning. And then we had Francesca Bria who talked about sovereignty. I think that was a good wake up for everybody to look at sovereignty and how we need to all have our to-do list on working towards that. We also had a discussion about semantics and AI, evolution or revolution. Always the same question, and do we still need semantic interoperability or having AI? Well, I think I don't need to answer to that question here, but perhaps something that was also mentioned is that here we all agree about the importance of semantic interoperability. And I would like that you also add in your to-do list for when you will go out, that you make sure that the value of interoperability is also understood outside this room. So that's a message I would like to pass to all of you. We also had the empowering the future, so interoperability and digital public sovereignty, trying to demystify the term of digital sovereignty, on how we can really bring it to connect to interoperability, and how interoperability can be an enabler for the public, the digital sovereignty. I'm sure that we didn't reply to all the questions, but that's the good thing of today, that we have some food for thought, that we can continue the discussions also outside the room. And also how we can have innovative policy making driven by digital ready and services design strategies. So there, we saw that legislation and rules are no longer just a standalone text, somewhere there, but that this is really a day-to-day work where we have to look at the digital impact. We have to make sure that what we do as legislation is future-proof. And the only way is to have the digital and the interoperability dimension since the very beginning of the design. So that was a bit, I would say, we didn't answer all the questions we have, because I think we still need to have the discussions afterwards, but there was quite a lot of insightful message in this morning. What about the afternoon?
Well, one of the discussions this afternoon was on the European interoperability framework and on the way ahead, next generation. It's also one of the questions from Slido, and has generated a lot of excitement. The interoperability framework, we had it for a long time. It's been accompanying us a long time on a variety of levels, and has spread even further than the EU member states. And today the discussion was on how can we change to accommodate the changes in policy making and the public sector in general since its last revision in 2017. So the next generation of the framework was still built on the same well-known dimensions of interoperability, but will also focus on becoming more tangible and find more sustainable ways of incorporating changes. Then there has been the discussion we also addressed on AI. How can we boost public sector interoperability with AI-driven services? There's both a semantic problem you asked, you talked to Gon before, which is a big issue in AI, but also how AI ecosystems that we're building, and you're in the Commission is building, can accelerate digital transformation in the public sector, and contribute to increase interoperability, amplify the impact of public services, improve outcomes for citizens, and support administrations in their work. This is also one of the key discussions. And then finally, a lot of discussion on how to create interoperability across borders in Europe, and how do we make it work in practice. Also the impact that we talked about before. We should measure the impact. And I think you also mentioned the figure from the letter report that there is actually a huge impact potentially for GDP, 0.4% annually. And that is a big deal in the European Union, especially for businesses that have to be more competitive in Europe. The key concern for all of us, how can we best assess this? This is also very important that we have a focus on, and that was addressed this afternoon as well.
And Sasha already mentioned that we also had the Public Sector Tech Watch Awards. So there is really to look at very practical examples. As I was saying, we are not looking only at the theoretical aspects, and even if we need a framework which needs to be updated, we really also need to show how We have concrete examples, being it for public services, so government to citizen or government to government. So I would like to name the 4 that have received the awards today. So the first one, government to citizens, has been DIA.ai, so the world's first national AI agent for government services from the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. So congratulations to them, and there have been already some mentions on how important you don't discuss, you need to cooperate, you need to make sure that interoperability works, and then you have very good success and examples. Then we had for government to government, because as I said, we also have to hide the complexity of the government to the citizens. And there we had Vienna AI with generative search from the city of Vienna, Vienna Digital. So congratulations also to them for this recognition. We also had something on Gen AI for public administrations with an honorable mention to generation of environmental technical reports using generative AI from the government of Catalonia. So as I was mentioning before, interoperability applies to all of the domains that we are dealing with. And then the last one I would like to mention is AI for sustainability, with an honorable mention also on using AI for species protection, detection of illegal online wildlife trade. This was coming from the AI lab at the German Environment Agency and the Federal Agency for Nature Conservation. So there also we see the importance of collaborating of different institutions or bodies, and this is really very nice to protect our nature through digital means. So also congratulations to this important team. So now, yeah, it's the time to thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for a wonderful cooperation. What a thing to finish the last big conference on digital in the Cathedral of Semantics here in Copenhagen. Thank you, the Commission, for a great collaboration on the conference. The Danish presidency also gets closer to handing over the baton to Cyprus in January. Although we have 1 or 2 big last things. The Commission has been great at work on the omnibus package and the business wallet last week. So there's a lot of things happening also, I think, until Christmas, something like that, for us in the presidency. But thank you very much also for collaboration on it from the Danish presidency side.
So I would like to start to thanking all of you and also the people that have been listening online, because without you we could not have the conference. So thank you very much. I would like to thank you, the Digital Agency and the Presidency from Denmark. This has been, as you said, a joint effort to make this happen today. Thank you to Forum for the infrastructure and the very, very good place and the cathedral, as you say, where we are. I would like also to thank the organizers, the whole team that as Adam was saying, you were very numerous and there were always hiccups here and there, and the team was always there to make sure that things work smoothly. Thank you to all the speakers. We have had a very big variety of speakers, and they have shown the passion that it is behind interoperability and semantics. So thank to all of them, and also to the exhibitors that you had the opportunity to talk and to share. So let me perhaps ask one question to all of you before closing. So we are now preparing for next year. But and I think we already have a lot of topics to discuss next year. But could I perhaps ask you to use still the red and green paper and tell me who is going to join next year? So I take, oh, some people won't. I want to talk to you later. But I think overall this means that you agree that we need to gather together. We need to have the time, take the time to discuss and have these discussions which do not solve all the problems, but links all of us and help on solving the problems through the whole year that we have in between the conferences. I would like also to invite that between now and the next year, you enjoy and you join the Interoperable Europe community. There are different, you have the portal, there are different communities. You have some like very technical, you can join, you can provide all your input there, but also the LinkedIn group, you can continue. So what I invite is you continue the discussions that you have started today here. And I would like to invite all the speakers that are still around to come to do a family picture before leaving. And for the courageous ones that stay till the end, I would like to invite all of you for some drinks that will be taking place. Well, you can follow the noise and so it's not upstairs, it's just before the stairs on the left. You are invited to continue the discussions and continue to increase your network from this great community on semantics. So thank you very much and see you all next year. Thank you. Oh, thank you. So that you can join us. We start already here, so cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers.